All right, guys, welcome to the Trial Site News podcast. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dr. Erin Stair, your host, and today we are chatting with Kelly McKee. And Kelly is the Vice President of Patient Registries and Recruitment at Medidata. Kelly, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today.
Absolutely. So for our viewers, Kelly is going to talk a little bit about a new technology that Medidata has developed that is going to help transform the patient clinical trial experience, and Trial Site loves to cover things like that. So I guess to start, Kelly, can you just provide us with a background of your company and kind of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who don't know Metadata, we are a Dassault Systems company, and we help generate the evidence and insights that help pharmaceuticals, biotechs, medical device and diagnostic companies, as well as academic researchers accelerate value, minimize risk, and optimize outcomes. We absolutely put patients at the center of our work, and more than 7 million participants have been part of more than 23,000 clinical trials that are supported by Medidata. And we collaborate with patient advocates, life science companies, researchers, regulatory agencies, as well as international organizations to solve treatment research, development, and delivery challenges. And our innovation and capabilities help shorten the time to complete clinical trials, which means that millions of patients can see the benefit of medical research faster. We are all passionate about the value that clinical trials bring and clinical trial participants bring to making new medicines, vaccines, and devices come to market.
So you guys recently launched My Metadata registries to engage patients before and after clinical trials. So can you give us an overview of how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to first start about how generally clinical trials run when it comes to patient engagement, and then I can talk a little bit about what we're doing at Metadata to transform that, if that works. And traditionally, clinical trials engage patients for the purpose of collecting data for a clinical trial, and it's very transactional. Um, what we're doing at Metadata is we're transforming that engagement to be everlasting and being pre-trial, in-trial, and post-trial so that patients can become empowered, engaged, and educated about clinical trial opportunities. They can find the clinical trial that's right for them and participate in it. And then at the end, they can receive their data back from the clinical trial, as well as be followed for long-term safety surveillance and health outcomes, as well as find new clinical trial or registry opportunities. The majority of patients, and I'm talking the vast majority, 98% of patients who participate in clinical research say they would want to participate again, but many are not asked. And so we're losing out on people who have already participated and want to participate again. But by continuing that engagement, we're able to continue to allow these individuals to find new clinical trials to be a part of.
Thank you for that. And that was kind of a great lead in to my next question. Can you describe a little bit, elaborate more on the lack of awareness that exists currently in terms of patients not knowing how to, that a trial may be continuing or how to join a subsequent trial, and just that problem in general and kind of how you guys plan on addressing it?
Absolutely. And I can speak from my personal experience here too, because I'm a participant in one of the COVID vaccine studies. And I'd like to think that I know more about clinical research than probably 99% of the population because I've been doing it, 20 plus years of my career. And I'm so, excited about the value that participants bring. But even I had problems finding a clinical trial to participate in for, the COVID vaccine, which everybody knows about, right? So
Right.
if it's that hard for me to find the opportunity, imagine somebody who doesn't have the experience or knowledge that I do, or who's, not looking for a COVID vaccine trial to participate in. And so that little personal experience gives you an idea of what others may be up against. Historically, clinical trials are thought of by a lot of people as a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to make clinical trials become an option for more people so that they can decide if it's right for them, along with their doctors and their families and, their whole
Yep.
sphere of influencers and influence. But clinical trials are an option, and a lot of times they represent the very best in the future. And so people should be able to have that choice. So how are we doing it at Metadata? We're doing it by providing education around clinical trials, opportunities for notifications and alerts to be received by individuals who join my Metadata, surveys. So for example, sponsors may be interested in asking real people, real patients, what they would like out of a clinical trial. They can do so via my metadata registries, get that information, and then actually use it to develop protocols that are more patient-centric. So it's really by talking to and engaging with real patients about their real wants, needs, and desires around clinical trials so that sponsors can create these protocols that aren't just scientifically beautiful, but are a beautiful experience for patients to participate in.
Now, regulators often require a lot of follow-up data for safety reasons, for drug approval, that kind of thing. Can your new technology help with that?
Yes, absolutely. If you think about the scientific advances that are happening now, they're like Star Trek or beyond, right? So gene modifying therapies like CRISPR technologies or CAR T or biologics, et cetera. And regulators are saying, hey, these are so brand new. We really need to ensure patient safety. And they're asking for 15, 30, 40 plus years of follow-up. Now, it's really important to follow up with patients for safety, right? But the way that clinical trials are run today doesn't make that very easy, with patients having to come to sites for every single visit, with many sites having to be open, right? So by utilizing technology, and I like to think of this as both a high tech and high touch approach, right? So we use the technology to be able to engage patients outside of a clinical trial site. And the high touch is bringing in that human element. So by using my metadata registries for long-term follow-up and safety surveillance, we're able to send notifications and alerts to patients to continue to keep them engaged, collect data through registry data capture, as well as if there's an event of interest or a safety event that happens, notifications can be sent automatically to investigators who then can follow up with patients via a My Metadata live video visit, via telephone call, or by having the patient come into the site. It's really about what's best for the patient. And so by utilizing this technology, we're able to really reduce the burden on sites so that they can take care of patients, what they do best. Reduce the burden for sponsors because they don't have to have all of these sites open. They can reduce the number of sites because you're employing this technology to be able to engage patients. And then continue to engage patients so that it's not just a transactional experience. They're getting as well as giving.
When I went to your website to prepare for this interview, I saw that you used patients to help design this, patient centricity by design, which I think is great. And I really like that. So I wanted to ask you if you could explain a little bit about how you guys did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my colleague, Alicia Staley, who is our VP of Patient Engagement, she leads our Patient Insights Board. And she and her team spent a lot of time really thinking about how we were going to define patient centricity at Metadata. And they reviewed over 100 research papers related to patient centricity, which is pretty much all of them that are out there. And they chose the definition from a 2016 article that was authored by Guy Yeoman and others, which says that patient centricity is putting the patient first in an open and sustained engagement of the patient to respectfully and compassionately achieve the best experience and outcome for that person and their family. So you can see that it's really bi-directional, right? It's not just saying we put the patient at the center of everything we do, but it's really understanding what patients need and having that bi-directional communication. So what does this really mean day to day at Metadata? It means that we've got 3 core principles of patient centricity, which are design, engagement, and activation. And when it comes to design, we develop and design products and solutions with the patient perspective at the forefront. So this really requires a lot of work. We need to understand the patient journey, to empathize, the patient perspective to define, patient goals to ideate, patient expectations for prototypes, and patient outcomes for product testing. So once we've done that, then we really need to engage. And that means building consistent points of interaction for patients. So it's not just taking, it's really giving and getting. And we host many events for patients to share their perspectives, not just at the end of a design process, but in the beginning and the middle and the end. And this is through our patient design studios, which were in person until COVID, but we switched over to Zoom like everybody else. And that's been going really, really well. And then it's about activation. So that's about enabling patients to be active participants in the clinical research process. And so through this, we have our patient insights board that I just spoke about, and we have 13 patient advocates, caregivers, leadership team members, and product team members. And we all come together, like I just talked about, via Zoom. And we really work through this entire process, as well as at the end, when we're ready to launch a product, all of our My Metadata products are certified by actual patients. That's something we're so proud of. And we actually, Alicia and her team won the Scope Participant Engagement Award for this this past year in January or February.
Yeah, that's great. I saw you guys won an award for it. It sounds fascinating. It sounds really great. Thanks so much, Kelly, for all of that information. My final question would be, if somebody wants to learn more about your company and the technologies that you offer, where do they find you guys?
Easiest way is Medidata.com. If you're interested in joining our registry, which is open to everyone, and I encourage everybody to do that, you go to mymedidata.com. And if you have specific questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. And as you can tell, I'm always happy, thrilled, ecstatic to talk about patient engagement and patient centricity at Medidata.
Awesome. And I'll include that link for our viewers underneath the podcast information. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for Kelly, and be sure to subscribe to the Trial Site News podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.